So we're going to move straight into some climate change related things because I cannot go incredibly long on this video today. I have a bit of a time limit. I don't know what accent that was. I think I was looking for Russian or something. This is from George Monbiot. Please do not shop for Britain. Consumerism drives us toward an even greater crisis than the pandemic, the collapse of our life support systems. This is very true. This is the man that wrote the article, very famous article called "The Gift of Death," about how the consumerism paradigm and ideology, and all the whole thing that happens around Christmas and shopping, and you must give a gift, and obviously all that shopping and all that consumerism kills the planet. So this is a good point by George Monbiot. If the answer is shopping, we're asking ourselves the wrong question. Right. Why? There was actually another, I think this was from another thread. Here it is. Has anybody twigged that when they say non-essential shops are opening, it's probably stuff that you don't really need? Exactly. So there you go. We're talking about reopening the country or, society. Non-essential is a very key word in this entire conversation. If we were really concerned about the state of consumerism and what it is doing to the planet, wouldn't we be concerned about what is essential and what is non-essential? Wouldn't we stick with just the essential? Basil Peterson says, we had a fine, peaceful protest here in Ithaca. Cool. TCR, it's too bad the masses aren't concerned that we've set off the sixth mass extinction. Too true, my friend, too true. Yeah. I'm kind of like, this is the time for this awareness and this concern over police brutality. The time has come. The time is long overdue. And while we're at it, maybe some people could hold their hands up or pop their heads up out of the crowd and go, climate change, guys, we're all going to actually, all of us are going to be brutalized if we don't stop brutalizing ourselves on a planetary level. Basil Peterson, I get my stuff from the reuse shops. Yes, Osama, some Steely Dan. Love that quote. Quoting probably my favorite band of all time. If I had to name a favorite, if I had to be stuck on an island with one band to listen to, I'd probably have to go Steely Dan. We are at 100 viewers. Welcome, guys. Please like up the video so we can get some more in here. Let's move on to... if you're new to the channel, please remember to subscribe. Moving on to another tweet. Actually tweeted by Kevin Hester. Sadly, we do not require a Blue Ocean event to trigger Dr. Shakova and Similatov's 50 gigatane methane discharge. Brace for imminent impact. He was retweeting something from Chris Van Steenbergen, who I highlighted, I think it was a couple weeks ago. So he's saying Beaufort Geyer iceless in less than 25 days. He's asking these questions. Blue Ocean event before Augustus. Sea ice-free Arctic. before September. He's posing the question, is this going to happen this year? Could it happen? Could we see, could this be the year of the blue ocean event? On top of everything else that has been going on this year, do we see an actual blue ocean event? Warmest Arctic summer in 3 million, 34 million, or 56 million years. Siberia, west and east, 40 C warmer than normal. Methane release by terrestrial and subsea permafrost. Are we going to see over 50 gigatons in 2020? He says all these questions are connected in thousands of ways. For example, when a blue ocean event would occur on the 1st of August, a sea ice free Arctic in September would be almost certain, 99% certainty. When a blue ocean event would occur on the 31st of August, there would be a small chance, 20% or less. Real-time observations and satellites are confirming Barents Sea, Kara Sea, Laptev Sea, East Siberian Sea, Chukchi Sea, Beaufort Sea, Amundsen Gulf, Peary Channel, Hudson Bay, Baffin Bay, Greenland Sea, and Svalbard. SSTs and air temperatures keep rising anomalously. So this is where we're at. Of course, very low sea ice concentrations at this time of year. That's where we're at. Moving on. This out of Forbes. Carbon dioxide levels just hit 417 parts per million. Actually, they went higher than that. Trevor Nace. This is from June 10th, 2020. Countrywide lockdowns and quarantine acted to temporarily decrease emissions of global greenhouse gas. However, as the yearly May benchmark was released, it appears to have done little to slow the ever-increasing rise in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We've been covering this almost daily. May 2020 hit a record high, 417 parts per million carbon dioxide as measured at the Mauna Loa Observatory, which has continually measured CO2 in the atmosphere since 1958. The reading of 417 parts per million is up from 414.7 parts per million in May of 2019. How do we put these carbon dioxide concentrations into a historical perspective? The reading of 417 parts per million is likely the highest it has ever been in the history of humans on Earth. On top of that, it is likely the highest concentration seen on Earth in 3 million years. The last time the atmospheric carbon dioxide was this high, sea level was 50 to 80 feet higher than it is today, and 3.6 to 5.4 Fahrenheit warmer than pre-industrial temperatures. There is a delay in the physical response of a forced increase in carbon dioxide to temperature. Okay, this is very, very key. There's a delay. So we already have the increase in carbon dioxide, which is way up. Our actual temperature response to this carbon dioxide is not as far up yet as it will be, as it certainly will be. But it is just a matter of time before the temperature increase catches up to the carbon dioxide level. And then with that temperature increase, then you have, another delay in ice melt, leading to sea level rise, et cetera, et cetera. Carbon dioxide levels rise in the atmosphere largely in response to two things: human emission from the combustion of fossil fuels and volcanic eruptions. As we can measure and quantify both in historical and geologic records, we can separate the relative contribution of each. While volcanic eruptions previously played a significant role in increasing CO2 in the atmosphere and thus warming the planet, we know that the modern rise in CO2 is a response to burning fossil fuels. We know this. The coronavirus-related lockdowns did not cause a temporary drop in CO2 emissions, estimated at 17%. However, the lockdowns were too short-lived. Exactly. What if we did this for the entire year? Then what would happen? Then we would see something. What if we did it for a couple of years? Too short-lived and not significant enough to alter the course of CO2 rising each year consistently on Earth. Well-understood physics tell us that the increasing levels of greenhouse gases are heating Earth's surface, melting ice, and accelerating sea level rise, said Peter Tanz, senior scientist with NOAA's Global Monitoring Laboratory. If we do not stop greenhouse gases from rising further, especially CO2, large regions of the planet will become uninhabitable. He says will. I'm so happy he did not say may or likely will or could. He says will. Atmospheric scientists at Scripps estimate that it would take 20 to 30% reduction in emissions for 6 to 12 months to see a downward impact on global atmospheric concentrations. Well, there you go. Look, we've been, again, I'll say it, we've been shown the way. We've shown that we could do it, but, if you did this in a concerted fashion for 6 to 12 months and then kept on doing it, well, then there you go. There's your response to climate change. There's your real response to climate change. But nobody wants a real response to climate change because why? Because the economy is more important than the planet. That's what a lot of people have decided. All the people in power, all the people that own corporations or run corporations or own, lots of stuff because they got rich due to their ownership of corporations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Rudel Zadvedno says Arctic Golf Club on inflatable boats. That sounds like a good old time to me. Osama says could, may, might are weasel words, or welcome to Weasel World, because we live in Weasel World. I don't know. Kuro Hikes asks, how much CO2 do we actually save by having 300 million people ordering Uber Eats and running AC, PCs, and TVs all day? Well, I guess we've been shown that we save, we emit 17% less. Yeah, all those things, you're right. It's a good point. All those things use CO2, but if you're not driving your car to work every day, that has a pretty large impact. As it turns out, it has a pretty large impact on emissions. If you're not getting on an airplane every week, which many people do, lots of people for work just get on an airplane, several times a week. If you're not able to do that, how much of an impact does it have on emissions? Well, actually, it turns out quite a bit. So yes, all those other things that you mentioned are still contributing, but I'm saying this is a start. You could start with this and go, okay, now we need to, let's raise consciousness a little bit more even. Let's cut out these other things that we know are contributing to the emissions or to the concentration of carbon in the atmosphere, et cetera, right? How farther could we go? How much more could we do? Welcome to Weasel World, where everybody just says the right thing, even when it's the wrong thing. Let's keep going with more climate change news or environmental news. As the nation reels, Trump administration continues environmental policy rollbacks. This is from yesterday in environmental health news. There's a whirlwind of distressing news these days. Rage over racism, fretting over finance, and coronavirus may just be getting its boots on, but it's all a perfect time to unleash some quiet mayhem on the environment. Indeed it is, I guess. It's all hard to write about, and I'm sorry, I know it's equally hard to read about, but it's even more impossible to ignore. The Trump administration's war on environmental regulation might draw a little more attention in normal times. Here are a few things flying under the radar that will have ramifications for years. In early June, Trump launched a frontal attack on the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, is a 50-year-old, profoundly unsexy law that generates tons of paperwork and keeps scores of attorneys gainfully employed. It's also a cornerstone of environmental law, the statute that requires an environmental impact statement or for federally funded development projects, including pipeline and construction, airport expansion, and more. Trump's new executive order enables agency heads to ignore key laws, including NEPA, the Endangered Species Act, and the Clean Air and Water Act, as if they imperil our economic emergency. Right. Agency heads like former coal lobbyist Andrew. We are about to see how suicidal the economy really can be, or how suicidal the elevation of the economy over everything else is. We're about to see what the result of that is very soon. It's a matter of weeks, perhaps months, but probably weeks. Agency heads like former coal lobbyist Andrew Wheeler at the Environmental Protection Agency, former oil lobbyist David Bernhardt at the Interior Department, and William Perry Pendley, a serial litigant against government agencies, who is now the interim boss of one, Interior's Bureau of Land Management. At a time when the ocean scientists are warning that a dramatic increase is needed in establishing marine protected areas, Trump is taking aim at the first such zone in U.S. Atlantic waters. The Northeast Canyons and Seamounts Marine National Monument, created by President Obama in his last year in office, set a unique area in the Gulf of Maine off limits to commercial fishing. The monument area is a hot spot for several endangered whale species and not of particularly high interest to New England's beleaguered fishery. When the administration moved to reopen the monument to fishing, both Maine's Governor Democrat Janet Mills and Republican Senator Susan Collins objected. The move may be part of a larger strategy to undermine the Antiquities Act, the 1906 law that allows the president to bypass Congress in protecting areas of natural. Was established by Teddy Roosevelt, wasn't it? In protecting areas of natural or cultural value, President Trump has already undercut the creation of two monuments: President Clinton's Grand Staircase Escalante and President Obama's Bear's Ears, at the behest of mining firms. Should Trump lose his re-election bid in November, as current polls suggest, the imagination runs wild with the prospect of midnight rules, the last-minute executive orders that mark the end of any recent presidency, including President Obama's Bear's Ears designation and Bill Clinton's roadless rule, which put millions of acres of pristine national forests off limits to logging. Even if President Trump is a one-termer, his impact on environmental issues will outlive most of us. That is a relevant and real concern. Doomhound says Trump will lose in a landslide. We can only hope. Although I don't know. I don't know right now. We'll see how much hate he generates. He seems to have a limitless capacity for generating hate. So, it's kind of whether or not he can rein himself in or not, and he shows no capacity for reining himself in either. So there you go. Book Hermit, the only way Trump loses is if they get Biden to stop talking in public. Well, it looks like they're doing a good job of doing, they're doing just that. They're trying to get him to just, the less he can say, the less he can be in public. It would be great news if they never had a debate between Trump and Biden. Because, Trump has some decline as well going on, cognitive and otherwise. But, Biden, when he opens his mouth on a debate stage, is just an absolute disaster, and he won't have any other foils this time on stage. It'll just be him and Trump. Let's keep it moving. I've got to wrap this up, guys, pretty quickly. Extinction breeds extinctions. You don't say. How losing one species can wipe out many more. This is something that we here at this channel are already very aware of. But let's read a little into this. Humans are causing a mass extinction. Are they now? And humans can stop it. Can they now? Earth is now in the middle of a mass extinction. Okay, this is real. This is already admitted to by scientists all over the planet, and most people just assume this is what's happening. The sixth one in the planet's history, according to scientists. And now a new study reports that species are... But, we all kind of exist or just run around or walk around as if we're in the middle of extinction. It's fine because, humans are... We'll figure it out. It's cool. No big deal. Now a new study reports that species are going extinct hundreds of thousands of times faster than the expected rate. A new study, that is comes on the heels of the study that was 3 months ago or 6 months ago or a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Study after study after study after study that comes out and says, hey, guess what? We're going extinct. The researchers also found that one extinction can cause ripple effects throughout an ecosystem, leaving other species vulnerable to the same fate. Extinction breeds extinctions, they wrote in their June 1st paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. With the accelerating pace of destruction, scientists are racing to understand these fragile bits of life before they're gone. Well, because, we really got to understand them. They're all going away. So I think maybe understanding other things might be more important right now. We're going to understand these fragile bits of life, and then there they go. So maybe shift your focus, science guys. This means the opportunity we have to study and save them will be far greater over the next few decades than ever again. Is it? Does that mean? Does your study make the opportunity to save them? I think we should study why humans are just so god dang hard-headed and, shall we say, dunce-like, said Peter Raven, a co-author of the study and professor, he didn't say that, I said that, emeritus of botany at Washington University in St. Louis, in an email. The findings also highlight how life can interact in unexpected ways and how difficult, really, we just didn't see that happening. How difficult it can be to slow ecological destruction once it starts. It's similar to climate change. Once it gets rolling, it gets harder and harder to unwind, said Noah Greenwald, the endangered species director for the Center of Biological Diversity, who was not involved in the study. We don't know what the tipping points are, and that's scary. All right. I'm going to stop there because, A, we all understand and know this. And, we've got to move beyond these golly gee williker studies. Oh, well, we've figured out that some extinction over here make extinctions happen over here. Okay, got it. Got it, galaxy brains. So let's move beyond these, just standard studies, and let's, we need rapid action. We need some serious understanding of why it is that we can't move ourselves in the right direction. And we need to, place all effort and all momentum and all energy in that direction. All shoulders must be put to the task of moving in the direction of action or policy or protest or whatever it is that action looks like. All right, lastly, let's move on to revealed more than 1,000 metric tons of microplastics rained down on U.S. parks and wilderness. This is from a couple days ago, June 11th. A survey of 11 remote western locations found that over a year, the fragments had traveled through the atmosphere like rain or water particles. Microplastic particles, equivalent to as many as 300 million plastic water bottles, are raining down on the Grand Canyon, Joshua Tree, and other U.S. national parks, researchers have found. In a survey of 11 remote western locations, also including the Great Basin and Craters of the Moon National Parks, researchers discovered more than 1,000 metric tons of microplastic particles that have traveled through the atmosphere like rain or water particles. Most microplastics are fragments from larger pieces of plastic. Since plastics aren't biodegradable, plastics that end up in waste piles or landfills break down into microparticles and make their way through the Earth's atmosphere, soil, and water systems. Isn't that delicious? Janice Brawny, we'll call her Brawny, lead researcher and professor of watershed scientists of Utah. Maybe she's brainy. I don't know. Can you be brainy and brawny? She's both brainy and brawny. Anyways, calls this process plastic spiraling, and some microplastics have been traveling through natural systems for a long period. Plastics could be deposited, readmitted to the atmosphere, transported for some time, deposited, and maybe picked up again, Brawny said, and who knows how many times and who knows how far they've traveled. Brawny's team found that so-called wet microplastics, named for the way they are transported via wet atmospheric conditions, have most likely been disturbed by a storm and swept up in the atmosphere and originated in larger urban areas. So yes, even if you throw these things away or put them somewhere, that you think is safe, they're breaking down and they're getting into water streams, etc. And they're getting into natural cycles. Dry microplastics, by contrast, mimicked the dispersal patterns of dust patterns and traveled long distances often across continents. Bronny warned that new findings show an urgent need to reduce plastic pollution. How about using plastics whatsoever? Although their full effects on the human body are still unknown. Are they unknown? Are they really unknown? The full effects are unknown, but we know that there are some effects, and they're not good. So we can't, we'll just assume that the full effects are not good. Scientists are starting to raise public health concerns over microplastic particles. They're small enough to lodge into lung tissue, which causes lesions. This is what we know. And in some cases, routine exposure, asthma, and cancer. Those are what we know. We can assume the full effects are very bad. A 2019 study found that in an urban Danish apartment, the average person inhaled about 11 microplastic particles per hour. Give me some more of them microplastic particles. They're delicious. Scientists have also linked microplastic particles to fluctuations in soil thermal properties, leading to losses in plant life. Bronny believes that his research... Oh, him. It's a him. I'm sorry. Thought it was a lady. Bronny believes that his research is just the beginning of understanding how microplastics move through ecosystems. Learning about plastics and how they don't decompose and degrade, it seems like, oh my gosh, we should have been expecting this. They're just fragmenting into these tiny sizes. They could certainly be carried by the wind, Bronny said. We've just been missing it. Oh, she. I'm confused because they called this same person he and she in the same article. Anyways. Hey. That is concerning to all, I am positive. Hey guys, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can also support the channel at the links below. PayPal, Square, and Patreon. Also, all of my live streams are available for listening on Patreon if you happen to miss them during the day. So you can sign up for my Patreon for as little as $1. If you want to go check out the live streams, they are all there. Thanks a lot.